wanted to be on to take an opportunity to introduce you to our Chief Justice, who is not only amazing, but she is one of the nicest people I've ever met, and she's a force to be reckoned with. So Chief Justice, I have to say, as I was scrolling through your website and looking at your pictures, I was so excited to see the picture of you with Justice Ginsburg. So that is so amazing that you had that opportunity and that experience. And of course, we give honor to her this evening. So I'm going to provide my very brief remarks about you, again, from your website. And I just thank you for being here with us this evening. So our Chief Justice, Sherry Beasley, is the 29th Chief Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court and the first African-American woman to serve as Chief Justice of the state's highest court. As Chief Justice, she is responsible for making sure every North Carolina court has the tools they need to run smoothly. She also leads the entire judicial branch of government. I just want you to let that sink in. She is the leader of the entire judicial branch of government for North Carolina, which encompasses more than 6,500 elected officials and employees in 102 courthouses. With 20 years of experience on the bench, Chief Justice Beasley believes all North Carolinians should have access to swift and fair justice. And coming off of the heels of Ronnie Long in our county, I think we all realize and recognize what swift and fair justice could mean for someone's life, no matter who they are or where they live. That's why she'll continue working to make our court system more transparent, fair, and accessible for every North Carolinian. So without further ado, and I think the program calls for her to speak next, right? Or are you going to do something else before she speaks? Okay, so she's speaking next. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to the baddest woman in NC court history and my friend and colleague, and I look forward to serving with her as a future elected official, but the amazing and illustrious Chief Justice Sherry Beasley.
Wow. Thank you so much, Cabarrus County Democrats. I am so glad to be here with you all this evening, and thank you so much, Amy. I don't know if y'all can see my dog in my lap, okay? This is Stanley. This was not in the plan, but he started barking, so he is in my lap. But I am so glad to be with you all this evening. I hope that you all are feeling a sense of enthusiasm around this election, and it is so important, and I know how hard you all work. I know how hard you all worked for Amy the last time and all the other folks on the slate, and I know how hard you're going to work this time. It is so important to make sure that people understand to vote the whole slate. You know, I'm so sorry we cannot be together in person. There's been lots of virtual meetings and Zooms and all that, and I know that's really strange, but I really hope you feel a sense of being fired up for this election. I really hope you feel a sense of enthusiasm about what's about to happen. I really hope you feel a sense of compassion and also energizing people who will have absolutely no idea what to do in this election. I'm so thankful that you all are willing to work so hard for people to help them to understand why this election is so important. I hope you know that North Carolina has the third longest ballot in the nation. And who are folks going to come to know what to do with this ballot? They're going to come to you. You're Cabarrus County Democrats, you're working hard through this election, but you're the folks who work hard all year long. And you're the ones who help people to understand what issues ought to be important to them and why they ought to care. So please know, folks are going to come to you to try to figure out what to do. Now, folks might be motivated by a whole lot of things in this election. People are going to know what to do at the top of the ticket. They've got strong thoughts and feelings about voting for Vice President Biden for president and Senator Harris for vice president, and they'll know to vote for Governor Cooper, and they'll also know to vote for Cal Cunningham. But they're really going to need your sense of guidance about what to do on the rest of this ballot. I know everybody says that this election is the most important election of our lives. Maybe it is. But I think every election is the most important election of our lives. The people who are here tonight are eternally committed to being engaged in the outcome of elections, because you know how important it is to make sure that you can choose who to select to serve you. And a lot of people just really don't understand that. So I appreciate your willingness to do that. I hope that as you vote the whole slate, that you don't forget the judges. Please don't forget the judges. I know that we're all commemorating the memory of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and many of us are heartbroken. Amy talked about the picture on my website, and about a year ago, almost to the day, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was actually in Raleigh. She spent the day speaking with Meredith College students, and that evening she came to the Duke Energy Center and she spoke with hundreds of friends of Meredith College alumni. And everybody kind of feels that sense of connection around her, right? I mean, she talked about her life. She talked about the fact that after she graduated from law school, she couldn't get a job. And so even though she graduated at the top of her class of Columbia Law School, after helping her husband through law school himself, and he had testicular cancer, and so she was going to his classes and her classes so they could both graduate on time. And she had a 1-year-old while this was going on. She talked about that. And she also talked about her romance with her husband, Marty, and how lovingly they had a wonderful relationship, and then their 2 children. But she also talked about the rule of law and how important it is in our everyday lives. She talked about how important it was early in her career to fight for women's rights as a lawyer, and certainly as a judge. She truly stood for equal justice under the law for all people. So if we ever wondered why we must make sure that we're placing the right people in our courts, she helped us to understand that. And the beautiful thing about her was that she did that for lawyers, but she also did it for non-lawyers. And that's why we all know her as Notorious RBG, right? Because she really helped all of us understand the importance of the rule of law in our lives. So I'm asking you, in addition to voting for me for Chief Justice, that you also vote for my friend, Justice Mark Davis, with whom I serve on the Supreme Court, and that you vote for my friend, Judge Lucy Inman, who is running for the Supreme Court, that you vote for my friend, Judge Reuben Young, who's running for the Court of Appeals, and my friend, Judge Laura Cubbage, who is also running for the Court of Appeals, that you vote for Judge Chris Brook, who is running for the Court of Appeals, and Tricia Shields, who is a wonderful lawyer who's running for the Court of Appeals, and Grace Stiers, who's also running for the Court of Appeals. That's 8 names. But please make sure you vote for the judges. It is so important. One of the things that Justice Ginsburg said in her lifetime was, fight for the things you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to follow. That's what we all have an obligation to do, not just her as a judge, but all of us have an obligation to fight for the things that we care about. And we have an obligation that for those who really don't understand what's on the line, to help them understand why this election is important. What a legacy. What a gift Justice Ginsburg left for all of us, to feel a sense of inspiration about her life and her service. And all of us are the beneficiaries of that. I hope that as you're students of elections now, I mean, there's so much more for us to know this year. We know that some folks have sent off for their ballot. I can tell you I sent off for mine weeks ago, actually, and I still haven't gotten it. But that some of the ballots are being returned because folks are not filling out the witness information properly. Please make sure that people understand that. And the other thing I please urge you that everybody knows is that there are 2 sides to the ballot. So you will not get to Amy Steele and Reverend Singleton, other really key people who are representing Cabarrus County, unless you flip the ballot over. Now, y'all know that, right? Because you're conscientious and you understand that. But trust me, I have heard it from all over the state where people didn't realize. They thought there was only one side of the ballot. So please make sure that people understand how important that is. You know, in this election, we are spending a lot of time on Zoom. This is how we're communicating. This is how we're sharing our excitement about this election. But I hope that you will also use the tools that social media offer. I'm certainly on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But that's really the way. If you post, like, retweet, all that, I mean, people really understand. When you endorse, when you offer your endorsement for our work and our service, people get it. Your friends will get how important this is. And they probably won't even ask you a thing about Sherry Beasley. But if you say yes to Sherry Beasley, they will do the same. This election is important. It's important from the top of the ticket to the bottom of the ticket. And certainly it is important for you to know and understand the importance of the rule of law and who's serving in our courts. Every single day as I lead the entire judicial branch of government and the Supreme Court of North Carolina, it is never lost on me that in North Carolina, most people have no trust or confidence in our courts. As a Chief Justice, I'm committed to changing that. I also appreciate the fact that so many of our communities and so many people in our communities are facing dire challenges around the impact of COVID-19, this pandemic in our communities. We've got to offer people hope. We've got to offer them a sense of engagement and promise. And the best way to do that, the best way for them to understand why this election is important, that they feel a sense of engagement and participation in the process, that they, you, and we get to determine who we support and who serves us. Many of us don't understand the importance of that gift, but I know the people here in Cabarrus County do. I'm excited about this election. If we were in the room together, we would be fired up. You all would be roaring and ready to go. We've got to make sure that that enthusiasm is carried through all their communities there in Cabarrus County and the communities all across the state of North Carolina. Let's do this. Let's win this election and let's give people a sense of hope. Let's give them a sense of promise and belief that in this United States of America, to which we just offered a pledge, that we really can make a difference in people's lives, that you do it every single day, and that you will hold accountable every single person that you elect in this election. I'm excited to be your Chief Justice. I'm excited to go forward and win this election on November the 3rd, but it absolutely will not happen without your help, your support, and your prayers. Thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you for what you do for North Carolina. Thank you for believing in our great state and understanding the promise that she offers all of us. And we've got to make sure that every single person in North Carolina understands that as well. Thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Is Chief Justice Beasley still here? I can't see.
I am still here.
Okay. I think we gathered some questions, did we, Vince?
Sure.
We had a few questions.
Sure, go ahead. I'm sorry, I can't read the chat and talk at the same time.
Justice Beasley, we had a question that came up here. It said the Atlantic published an article yesterday that in the event of an election loss, the Trump administration is seeking to have GOP-controlled state legislators appoint electors that will give the Electoral College votes to Trump, despite the will of the people. North Carolina is going to be very close. How are the electors appointed in North Carolina, and can Governor Cooper stop our legislature from doing this?
The electors are appointed by the folks who are if you will remember there. So even though we have two leading candidates for the president, for instance, the Biden people have electors that they've chosen that have committed to them, but there are also some Sanders electors, and so they've got to determine how best to do that among themselves. But the interesting thing about all of this is that the Secretary of State will hold a meeting, and I want to tell you that it's on December the 14th, to have the electors actually sworn in. So we all think that on election night, the results are official, and they're kind of really not. So they'll all be sworn in. I think the date is December the 14th, and the Secretary of State will do that. And then if there are issues that come before the court, it is the 14th. If there are issues that are conflicts around what the votes might have been either in the presidential election or any of the state elections, the Supreme Court of North Carolina and the Court of Appeals are on call the entire, during that entire period of time. So I will likely be watching the returns that evening from the Supreme Court building. We have certainly been called on before in case we might need to handle some disputes, legal disputes. It might not be, I mean, we very well could see some lawsuits filed that evening, and we want to make sure that the court is open and available to handle any of those. So I can't go into great detail about that because we really may have a lawsuit that's filed that evening, and so the court will act quickly, I can tell you that.
Thank you. There are so many other people on the call. You can post a question into the chat room, or if you raise your hand, we can unmute you so you could ask a question directly to Justice Beasley. I see somebody on this call right now. Is there anyone else that has a pressing question that we can either answer now or a little bit further on in the agenda? We are going to hear from Sabrina Berry, who's running for County Commissioner, and we'll have a second Q&A round. Justice Beasley, are you going to be able to stay with us for the next half hour or so to be able to be a part of both Q&As?
Unfortunately, no. I've got another Zoom at 7.
At 7. Oh my. Okay.
So get your questions in now. Yeah. Does anyone?
Zoom.
I've got loads.
We live in such a Zoom world. Well, anyone else out there? Sophia, I see you on there, and Jay Boyer and Suzanne and David Millar is on the call. Anyone else have a pressing question for Justice Beasley? Okay, I have, someone just made a statement here in the chat box that your enthusiasm is contagious, and indeed it is, Justice Beasley. We are so thankful that you were able to take time out of your busy schedule to be with us tonight. And, you know, and I represent one part of this coalition. This is being hosted by the Democratic women of Cabarrus County, the Cabarrus County Democratic women, but the senior Dems, which I represent, and the young Democrats of Cabarrus County and the county party are all a part of this coalition effort. And I know that Bobby Hague is on this call because I can see her in the gallery view. And I'm wondering, Bobby, if there's anything that you'd like to share before Justice Beasley needs to leave the call.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks so much, Justice Beasley. We appreciate you taking your time to be here with us. We are pushing all of the judges. We have the cards that have your information on front and back that we're passing out when they come to the office to get their blue ballots. So we're pushing for you because we're in your corner. So thank you so much. And like someone else said, your enthusiasm is contagious. So we're going to take that enthusiasm and spread it.
Woohoo! All right.
May I ask another question?
Please.
I was just wondering about, you know, everybody's very concerned about when to vote, what's the best way to vote, given the issues with the mail, given the issues of when we don't know when the ballots, are the ballots in North Carolina counted right away? Are they counted only, you know, are mail-in ballots only counted starting on election day? We don't know the laws regarding this, and everyone's very concerned on all angles of how to make their vote count.
You know, it's hard to know. I mean, it's a matter of preference, I think, and choice. You know, like I said, I've sent off for my absentee ballot weeks ago, and it's still not there. I have made the determination for myself that I will be turning it in person. But everybody should do that for themselves. I think it's important to have the information. I think it's important for everybody to know that the last day to register to vote is October 9th. It's important to remember that early voting is between October 15th through the 29th. And then, of course, Election Day is November the 3rd. I heard the director of the State Board of Elections say that they are anticipating that 30% of people will vote by mail, 50% will vote early, and only 20% will vote on Election Day. We'll see if that bears out. But, you know, I think all of us should do what makes us comfortable. We're all aware that this pandemic is real, and people may have health concerns around showing up in person. So it's hard to make it one specific blanket solution. The beautiful thing is that we have options, and so there are lots of choices for everybody, I think.
But we don't know when. We're all very concerned that, you know, some states have only count the absentee ballots starting on Election Day, and we're all concerned that they will try to legally stop the counting of the ballots.
Well, they are not just starting. I mean, the count may start on Election Day, but please know that's how we know that there are people who are omitting information from the ballot, because now the State Board of Elections will return the ballot to the voter, which is new. Even before, I mean, there was mail-in, but there was still absentee balloting. You know, you could still mail in absentee. If there was an error, there just was an error, and there was no opportunity to cure it. So now there really is. So it's not that they're counting your ballot, but at least they're determining whether or not there are errors, and they will send the ballot back for the opportunity to cure the ballot.
Got another question? I think Dave Miller has a question.
Mm-hmm.
I did vote by mail, and it took 2 weeks to from the time from the 4th of September to receive in mail the ballot, and it really worked fine. To your point, Kathleen, I believe the vote by mail ballots cannot be legally counted until Election Day.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
But and then I just filled it out that afternoon, and my wife and I went to the Board of Elections and handed it over to the people there. And then you had to also sign a binder for those people who do take their ballots directly to the Cabarrus County Board of Elections. So there's and I did sign up for ballot tracks, and I received a call 8 o'clock Sunday morning that my ballot was correct, will be counted. So it looks, I was very pleased with the process.
I'm glad you mentioned ballot tracks, David. I too have signed up, so you don't have to wait until after you vote to track. Mm-hmm. You can track your ballot at the point that you've asked for an absentee ballot. So I am tracking, and I'm waiting, and I know where I am in the process. So I think you're right. That's very helpful.
So I do recommend vote by mail if you have extenuating circumstances. But my wife said she's going to vote early.
David, this is Vincent, and later on in this call, Martin Erickson, who is our chair of the Board of Commissioners here in the county, will be joining this call about 7:30 or so he can address any open questions that pertain to the voting process. But like you, I got the mail-in ballot and hand carried it to the Board of Elections, got it done, it went to ballot tracks, it said, yeah, 100% signed, sealed, and delivered. So this system is working. Yeah. So yeah, congratulations.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Kathleen, I can switch back to share screen and bring us back to the PowerPoint, which somewhat may keep us on track.
I think, yeah, I think it's time. I know you have another appointment, so we just would like to say thank you so much for coming and speaking to us. And thank you for being so positive, and really, this couldn't have been better timed at a time when we need to hear from the Justice Department and the courts in North Carolina and believe in them. So we hope to see you in bluer times.
Mhm.
2021.
We're going to make it happen, and we're going to celebrate, because we need to celebrate each other. We need to celebrate the goodness of who we are. So thank you all so much for having me. And thank you so much for all of your hard work. I know how hard you all are working through this election, and we will prevail. And that's really exciting for the people of North Carolina.
Mhm.
Thank y'all. Take good care.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, I'm turning this over to Sina to introduce Sabrina.
Hello, it's Sina Andrews, and I'm so excited to be able to introduce the amazing Sabrina Berry running for County Commissioner. Sabrina is in the real estate business, and if anyone knows anything about real estate, that means that she is involved in all kinds of things all over our county and in the greater Charlotte area. Real estate agents tend to have a good read on all things related to the county. So I know that she's going to bring so much insight and fresh ideas to the county commission. Sabrina, I am excited to hear from you about your ideas for education and mental health and affordable housing. And I know we're not going to be able to get through all of that tonight, but when I looked through your website and through your Facebook page, everything that's important to you really resonates with me and all of Democratic women. So without any further chatting on my end, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we can't wait to get to know you better.
Thank you guys for having me. I am so excited to be here with you. As she said, I'm Sabrina Berry, running for County Commissioner, and I'm hoping that I earn your vote on November the 3rd. I'm running because I believe everyone in Cabarrus County should have the economic opportunity to prosper. I'm passionate about affordable living and bringing jobs that pay a livable wage. I support our educators, law enforcement, first responders, and mental health professionals. I'm an advocate for economic and social injustice as well as reproductive justice. Ladies, nobody should have the right to tell us what we can do with our bodies. We have been challenged in many ways through COVID and through the history of our country. Over the last decade, the over-incarceration and over-conviction of women has risen. Many of these women struggle from substance abuse and mental illness with a history of physical and sexual abuse. This effect on women and families, this has an effect on women and families because it creates barriers in employment, housing, and some often can't get public assistance. We as a county have to prioritize women issues. We lack the resources for those that are currently and that have been physically and sexually abused. We as women and our little girls have the right to pursue happiness. And as a county, if we're not putting money into those resources to support women, we will continue to see those struggles and will be depriving women and little girls of their fundamental ability to live life with dignity. As your county commissioner, I will work with all municipalities to balance the budget so that taxpayers don't pay for government overspending and continue to be an advocate on the issues we're facing. We women have a powerful voice. As you look at all of the courageous, beautiful women in 2020, I hope that's running in 2020, I hope that you will consider supporting us and continue to empower and motivate each other. If there's a woman on here that's feeling broken or flawed, I want to encourage you and tell you that you are beautifully broken and perfectly flawed with a transcending power of brilliance. And I like to quote, I heard a quote from our next Vice President, Senator Harris, and she says, "Women are a force that cannot be dismissed or pushed to the side. We will rise to the challenge, fight, and win." And I believe that. And I thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. Does anyone here have any questions for Sabrina? So just raise your hand or unmute yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
Sabrina, I would be help me a lot if you could give more information about affordable housing here in Cabarrus County. I really don't have a feel for what has been provided and what the needs are going into the next couple decades.
Well, we don't have a lot of affordable living options in the county. I believe that, and I believe we have a county survey where the county has been surveyed once elected, and able to see that survey and start working with developers. I believe they've already identified certain locations in the county to build these homes. It's just that we don't have that voice for the disenfranchised to push it, to make it happen.
Thank you.
Sabrina, this is Vincent. I see that Diamond Williams is on the call. Hey, Diamond. So my question would be is, as a county commissioner, how will you be working closely with the different municipalities, with Mount Pleasant and with Harrisburg and so forth, and with Concord? What are some of the steps that you as commissioner will take to make sure that all of the municipalities are represented when you go into those board meetings? Because I get a sense right now that out here in the hinterland, I live out in Mount Pleasant, that we're not being represented properly.
Exactly. Working with the communities, being in the communities, not just the municipality, but the people, because this is a partnership. This is the people and us and your elected officials. So it's working with the people and being out there, working with the municipalities and those that are in charge, and hearing those issues from the workers and from the community, and then bringing those issues back. One of the things that we do in social justice is we go out into the communities and we surface those issues by going out and just talking to people. When you go out and you make those grassroots efforts, the same grassroots efforts that we make when we're campaigning, and you're listening and you're talking, we can't just do it during election times. We have to do it throughout the year. There's 4 quarters in a year. In this county, you should be able to visit those different Mount Pleasant, Harrisburg, Midland, Kannapolis, and Concord. You should be able to be in the communities. There's more than enough time.
Well, thank you. There's been another question that came up here. Some of the, all of the school board members are not able to be on this call because they're in another call coincided at 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Some of them may be able to join us toward the tail end of the call. But the question that came up was, how will you work with the school board members to make sure that they have the resources that they need, that our school district has the resources that it needs to ensure that we have the best education available in Cabarrus County?
I think our school board and our county commissioners, they're working very closely together while developing their budget. They did that during this last budgeting season. They have a great relationship. I will build on that relationship and continue to make progress. I think they're doing a great job of working with each other.
Thank you. Jay Boyer, I see you had a question.
Yeah, one of my concerns is was brought up in a quasi, I would say, suburban country setting, if you will. And in 1967, I moved to this particular area to the point where I actually helped my friend bring in his cows. The community looked very much like Cabarrus, and I moved out of there, and they were putting up high-rise buildings throughout the county. Services were dropping, taxes were going up. My concern is to keep Cabarrus the way it is and not to overpopulate or overbuild, where we end up taxing ourselves to the point where people are going to pick up and leave. So how do you see that balanced?
Again, that's the community working together with the county commissioners, and the county commissioners working with the communities and other government agencies. Part of the biggest part of the commissioner's duties is to balance the budget, to make sure that taxpayers are not paying for government overspending. Looking at the resources that we have and looking what we can do to fix that. I participated in the budget season this year and went through the county's training and to see and know how they develop the budget. I think the commissioners, as a commissioner, I will be more active in helping to develop that budget.
Thank you. Thanks, Jay. A related question, Sabrina. With the COVID, with the pandemic, our county has lost a lot of revenue, a lot of tax revenue. The hotel industry that was impacted, small businesses that had to furlough people, taxes that are uncollected. So there's bound to be a shortfall. Do you have a line of communications with the state level and even with the federal level that you anticipate will get some of the money that we have paid back into Cabarrus County to help us with the shortfall that's bound to happen to sustain our police and fire efforts and so forth?
That's the voter education and knowing that why we need Marcus Singleton elected, why we need Amy and Gail elected, and why we need to, how we work together on the local, federal, and state level. We need those voices in Raleigh so that that money can come back to our county.
Yeah, thank you. Great questions. Anyone else out there with?
As well as the census, still encouraging people. I think they are still collecting the census, and that's a good way to bring money back to the county. So still encouraging people to complete the census.
Mm-hmm. Sabrina, I have a question. It's not really a question, it's an observation, and I hope it's something with your expertise in the real estate market and your interest in affordable living. One of the interesting things that an interesting situation that COVID has created is we have all these businesses that are losing money. Many are still shut down. And so, yes, we're not gathering up that tax revenue. However, our real estate market is going through the roof right now. And so with a shortage of housing, those that are putting their houses on the market are seeing top dollar. To me, that seems to create the perfect storm for even less affordable housing moving forward. And that really concerns me. And I imagine that it concerns you as well. I'm not asking for you to have the answer tonight, but I am asking for you to think about ways that we can start that discussion, because it's a hard one to start with folks that are really excited about home values going up. They think that's a great thing, and aren't always thinking about the impact on members of our community that are already struggling to find affordable housing now and are having to live much further out and then travel into our community to work. So I just wanted to bring that up, and I don't know if you have any comments about it now, but I'm sure asking for you to bring that to the table when you're having discussions.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. You certainly planted a seed.
Hey, Sabrina, along those same lines, I just realized a lot of people are telecommuting. A lot of businesses, the quote unquote Wall Street banks, things of that sort, attorney offices that can all do the work at home, remote working. How has that at this point in time affected the real estate market as far as the businesses go? Do you think that it'll turn around and people will go back to the offices, or the businesses are going to say, hey, look how much money we saved. We don't have to have people come to the office, and the real estate angle for businesses takes a nosedive?
I think each company with their HR department, that they would, each one is different. Each one have different guidelines, but I think each one is making the best decision possible and how to transition back into a safe workplace. And you know, when I don't work in HR, but I imagine if you do, you have a responsibility of keeping all your employees safe. So I imagine each one will have a phase plan or some type of plan to integrate back into the office safely.
Yeah, I agree with that. My concern is that if they take a look at their bottom line, the bottom line during COVID has gone up from this idea of their expenses for real estate, and that be the electric and everything else to rent space. Their electric bill's gone down, the paper has gone down, things that you normally see in an office has gone down because it's been flipped to the remote worker, that they may not have those people move back into the offices. The office space shrinks, and the amount of space of unoccupied office buildings, along with the businesses that went out, the tax base is going to be shut to hell.
So those that are marketing and managing those buildings will have to come up with a market plan to get those businesses to come back and open, whether it's reduction of the amount per square footage that they're renting. But I would imagine that those that are managing the buildings and in charge of leasing and marketing, that they will have some type of incentive to get those businesses back in the building.
I know that in Harrisburg Town Center, before this hit, they were talking about building one level storefronts with luxury apartments above them, whether they be rentals or ownership. But they're still talking about building those buildings, and a third of the lots, I should say the space in town center, is unoccupied now. And that just doesn't make any sense to break ground and start building when you already have space that's not rented out. I think the zoning board needs to kind of revisit that countywide so they don't get themselves into more of a hole with vacant properties that nobody's going into. And then that brings other elements along with it, such as vandalism, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely. I agree. The zoning laws do need to be looked at.
Thank you.
Sabrina, kind of a tangent question to Jay's statement. We talk about COVID, and we talk about, reopening schools. In fact, the school board meeting that's going on right now, the school board discussion is doing that. They're talking about that very issue. And a lot of that discussion focuses on internet access for everyone, not just the privileged that have it already, but for those folks that don't have access to it. As county commissioner, what are some of the steps you plan to take to ensure that all the kids have access to the internet, and that all small businesses who are trying to operate from their homes now can have access to that kind of technology?
If I was already elected, I will be already working with those that are state officials and looking for ways to bring money into the county and asking for assistance to make sure that to see at least know the number of what it would cost, and to see if we can get that money to provide internet service to those rural areas or to those kids that have no internet. And I don't know what all resources we have as county commissioners or what our right is to apply for certain grants or certain government assistance, but kids in education, not just our rural area kids, but let's not forget about our Spanish kids. Those that are struggling right now, those parents that do not speak English, their kids are somewhat forgotten about because there is no one that's translating during the day. So there's a lot of families struggling that's trying to find those translators to help their children learn.
Thanks. We got a couple of questions here in the chat room. One from Aaron Rushton. Hi, Aaron. Sabrina, can you tell us what makes you different from the other candidates?
my passion for people. Everything I do is interconnected, from real estate, property management, my community service. But first of all, I'm godly led. I don't move without asking God first. I love people. Um, I believe in community, building harmony in community. And all of that goes to play when you're running for a role like county commissioner, because you need to be in your communities. You need to know the communities, the issues of the communities, know the people, work with the people. But definitely it's my love for Christ, my spirit, my love for people and community and harmony in communities.
Well, Sabrina, oh, yeah, here we go. Sorry about that, there's like a little glitch there. Yeah, first of all, I mentioned earlier that I had voted. You might want to know I voted for you. I also voted for Kevin Vincent. The two Democrats who are running for county commissioner represent us so well and bring such a breath of fresh air to our county. And you know, I thank you for putting yourself out there for this service. But again, I would reiterate what Justice Beasley said. Make sure people turn over that ballot and make sure you look at the second side of that ballot to make sure you cast a vote for Sabrina and cast a vote for Kevin. I noticed that Martin Erickson joined us. Hey, Martin, I won't put you on the stage right yet, but in just a little bit, some questions came up earlier about the election process, and I hope you'll be able to answer a few questions that came up earlier in the call. Thank you. I saw your thumbs up.
Yeah. Sabrina, I have one question because we've covered a myriad of topics. We've talked about education, we've talked about affordable housing, we've talked about COVID-19, we talked about our schools, we talked about growth and development for the area. So you've got all of these things that are that you're going to be walking into when you're elected. I'm going to go straight with the saying when you are elected. So when you're elected, you've got all of these different topics heading at you. Could you talk us through what your top 3 priorities are? And then what is your plan for your first 90 days in office to get acquainted with the issues and start building your strategy?
Yes, ma'am. So my main concern is the amount of evictions that are going to happen in January. Our county is not prepared for that. We, again, have approximately 35 beds in the whole county. So where are we going to send people? Where will people go? You know, those that are already living on the bare minimum. And I know you guys know once the eviction is filed, that's a lifetime thing, and it prevents you from getting other housing. So once they're filed on, and then they go and they actually come up with the money, they can be possibly denied from an apartment complex or, you know, a real estate agent because of a previous filed eviction, even though it didn't happen through the courts. So that is a major concern, that we don't have shelter for what's coming in January. Affordable housing is the second concern. Having housing that people can afford, that our seniors can afford, and our low income families. That's the second. The third is looking through the county to see where we could, looking through that survey and really digging into it and digging into the budget, and really breaking it down and strategically looking at where we could work with Cabarrus Health Alliance to provide more resources, because along with COVID-19, mental health is on the rise too. Mental health illness is rising. And as a county, we're not equipped to handle that either. So that would be the third thing that I will be concerned about, is what resources can we provide right now? Because we can't wait till next year. I mean, this is going to be in the now, and it's going to be happening pretty soon, and we're not nowhere prepared for it. As churches, we can get prepared to do what we can within the community, but as a county, we don't have enough to serve what's coming in January.
Okay, the last one I saw was from Diamond, asking, what are your plans to expand economic development in the county?
Working with businesses, offering economic incentives. And I know our county has safeguards in place to make sure that companies don't come in and get the incentives and leave. But offering economic incentives to bring those business here. But if we're going to give them incentives, we need to make sure that we at least need to make sure before they come what they're paying our citizens. Also setting up job training programs so that citizens get the best shot. They're prepared for the jobs that are coming here so they can make a higher wage.
Well, that's covered a lot of ground. Thank you, Sabrina, so much.
Thank you guys for having me.
And best of luck in the elections.
We got you. We got you.
We got your back. So I'm going to turn this over to Diamond for a moment because we do have something that I should have moved to do in the beginning while Chief Justice Berry was still here. Diamond?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yes.
So we're going to take this moment, a great moment of silence for a great leader that passed away this past week. So this moment of silence is for Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Without RBG, where would we women be, right? So at this time, we'll take our moment of silence. Thank you.
We're being attacked by all the pets. Okay, well, at this time, first, going to remind anybody that has to check out soon that October 27th, 22nd, put it on your calendar. I believe it's the third Thursday in October. We will be having last chance to meet our congressional candidate, Pat Timmons-Fetzen. We are also going to be having a rally. This will involve Democratic women from across the state here, including our president, Elizabeth Goodwin, and former president, Julia Buckner. We will be seeking people to run for office and run the Democratic women, hopefully with a new blue county. It's going to be an amazing opportunity. We are really searching for people to serve on that board. Please feel free to get in touch with us either via the website, the Facebook page, any board member, and myself, Amy, Diamond, Sina, Regina. If you are interested in serving on that board, we are handing over a much healthier membership list. We are handing over a much healthier bank account for the county. We've got a lot and a new website. We've spent a lot of time and a lot of energy to really build this up, and we really need people that can carry that torch. You know, we've got 2 members. Well, we have 1 member now in Diamond serving currently in elected office, and expect to have Amy serving as well. So we really need some people to step forward, and boy, what a great time it will be to actually be doing that and being able to take that further at a time when everyone is energized, psyched up, and ready for real change in Cabarrus. Now I want to turn it over to Martin Erickson to answer all questions that people might have regarding voting, because that's what we're all doing right now. Hi, Martin. Are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I guess this is an Ask Me Anything. What are the questions?
Well, I'll start by
Well-
asking the same question that I asked earlier, which is, when are absentee ballots counted, seeing as this is becoming an issue nationally? Are they all counted on election day? Is it more difficult to count absentee ballots? Or are they counted as they come in North Carolina?
Okay, and see, I've got another member of the Board of Elections here on the call with us, Sophia Wilkerson, who has been working with us on this. By state law, and they came back to us, counted, they gave us a definition of counted and tabulated. Counted is fed into the machine, very much like the machine you see at your precinct or at early voting. Tabulated is when we pull the results from the machine. So we're allowed to start counting starting the Tuesday, 5 weeks before the election. So that will be Tuesday, September 29th. And we will be in there approving ballots and having them fed into a machine and the tabulator. And we will continue to do that 3 nights a week until we get closer to the election. And then we start meeting every night. And then we'll have a meeting on Monday night, November 2nd. And so as of when polls close on the night of the 3rd, and we'll also be meeting at 2 o'clock on that election day to take in the very last ones that we receive before the last mail for that date. And so when we tabulate those results, probably the first 2 results you'll see will be from all the absentee ballots we've received to that point and the results of the one-stop early voting. So those results in North Carolina will come through very quickly compared to some of the other states. At the very least, any postmarked ballots that are received as of 5 o'clock the Friday afterwards, that would be Friday the 6th, will also be counted. If a consent order is approved by the judge, it's actually extending it even further. It's extending it until November 12th to receive any postmarked absentee ballot. And then finally, the final results are handled at Canvass on Friday, November 13th. So as opposed to some states, and I pity those other states that don't get to start processing and counting the ballots until Election Day, we will be relatively quick.
Thanks, Martin. Is there anyone else who has any questions for Martin regarding voting?
I do have one thing I need to make.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead,
Okay,
Martin.
thank you, Jay. There's one thing I want to make people aware of. We are now more than 20,000 absentee requests in, which is nearing 400% of everything that we had requested for us in 2016. So it's a huge increase, and we are keeping current with mailing of 4 of the ballot styles. We have 5 ballot styles in this county. Ballot style 1 is the 83rd district and includes the Cabarrus Board of Education. Ballot styles 2 and 3 are the 82nd NC House district. One of them has the Cabarrus Board of Education. The other one doesn't, because it's going to Kannapolis people who have their own Board of Education, which has already been elected this past spring. And finally, the last two ballot styles are District 67, but one of those ballot styles has the locust municipal election, because we have a little bit of locust in this county. We're keeping current on ballot styles 2 through 5. We had such a demand for ballot style 1 that we are actually behind in mailing those out. So I was touting this ballot tracks where you can look and see when your ballot is in the mail. Unfortunately, it shows up as mailed when we print the labels, which we do every day. So we're still working on getting some of those out. So everybody who has requested a ballot by the 4th, and probably even the ones who have requested it by the 11th, should have their ballots in hand by the end of the month, and everybody else shortly thereafter as they get requested. So if you have requested a ballot and haven't seen it yet, just please be patient. They are working as hard as they can, 6 days a week, extended hours to get these out. One question sometimes people ask, just because I have requested and received an absentee ballot, if I decide to go vote early at early voting, or if I decide to vote on election day, is that permitted, and what should I do with my ballot? And the answer is, it is perfectly acceptable to go vote election day or early voting, even if you requested an absentee ballot. Please just destroy your ballot. Don't, regardless of what some people say, don't mail in your ballot and then go try to vote again. That doesn't work. I can see Diamond shaking her head. She agrees with me.
We also have a question from Diamond saying, are you still in need of poll workers?
I think we're probably getting close. They are trying to recruit some extra poll workers, just in case somebody drops out at the last minute. They're actually doing the early voting groups as crews. So for any reason there happens to be a problem with one particular crew, they would take another crew and just place them in there. So it never hurts to make yourself available and sign up to be a poll worker, a precinct official. This is also something, and I had a very nice talk with members of the Harrisburg Youth Council this week. We do take in 17-year-olds to be student election workers. And anybody that's interested in that, I gave April, who coordinates with that group, the application. Anybody else has a 17-year-old that's interested, please contact me and I'll ship you the application.
Martin, this is Bobby. Now, is it true that for the poll watchers, the child can be 16? Because that's what I was hearing from Democracy North Carolina.
Bobby, I will have to check that, and that has to be, you're able to have 2 per precinct, and it has to be appointed by you and given to Carol Souls, our director, 5 days before the election.
Correct.
But I will check and see what the age limit is on that.
Yeah, well, I was on a Zoom meeting just prior to this one with Democracy North Carolina, and the slide that they were showing said that poll watchers, not workers, watchers could be 16 years of age. So that's why I wanted to ask you, because I don't want to start recruiting 16-year-olds to be poll watchers and then be told they can't do it.
I'll get back with you no later than tomorrow on that, Bobby.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, there's always one question that, throws a curve, but that's no problem. We'll work on it.
All right, well, thank you, Martin. And I think that's about going to do it for us this evening, other than if you missed Tuxedo Cat and the Flame Twirler, that will be coming back. Feel free to watch. Once again, we want to thank Tuxedo Cat Mobile Imaginarium here in Concord for contributing this to tonight, and what a fabulous evening. And I thank everybody here for being so invested and attentive and participatory. Do you have another question, Martin?
I have one last question.
Okay.
I ordered my absentee ballot. When is the last date to order it? Is there?
There is a last date to order it, short of being critically ill. The last day to order it is the 27th, but since October, but that is giving you not very much time to get it executed and get it back to us. So if you're at all thinking about it, I'd say do it now. And one thing, Kathleen, excuse me, I did want to say, have trust in the integrity of your elections. We have very dedicated people here at the county level. I know you're going to be reading, or probably have already read, some disruption up at the state board level with 2 members of the state board, 2 Republican members resigning. But we are operating. Our authority still carries through, and we will conduct you a good, fair election. Try to get the word out. Don't be discouraged. Show up and vote, and we will count the votes.
Okay.
And that, excuse me, Kathleen, that's it.
All right, well, thanks, everyone. I'm going to move to adjourn. Do I have a second? I got one from Diamond. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Again, please put October 22nd on your calendars. In the meanwhile, please participate in our democracy as you are here tonight. And if there are any candidates that were here tonight who, please feel free to post a link to your website. I think, Sabrina, yours was probably posted, but maybe not yet. If people want to call on behalf of candidates, that's great, or contribute to these campaigns. If you are not a member, once again, I will remind people, we still have a lot of members that haven't paid their dues. We really need a vote so we can give these candidates their money so they can go out and win these elections. And that link is at the top of this group chat on Secure Act Blue for Cabarrus County Democratic Women. And that's about it for us. So thank you and good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening.